Your top story: suspended senior SARS executive Jonas Makwakwa has now been named in a 60 million rand tobacco fraud case. The case dates back to 2009 and involves one of Africa's richest tobacco dealers, Tribert Ayabatwa. ANN7's sister publication, The New Age, reports that Tribert Ayabatwa allegedly lost close to 60 million rand in a scam involving SARS officials. The company was made to believe it was paying the settlement of outstanding tax on his cigarette manufacturing business. The case arose from a non-disclosure settlement agreement signed by the Rwandan-born Ayabatwa and SARS after years of litigation in East London. Makwakwa signed the agreement on behalf of SARS. Makwakwa was last month suspended after the banking regulator revealed that about 1.2 million rand in mystery payments had found their way into his bank account. Let's take a look at how the trouble started for Tribert Ayabatwa, who owned Mastermind Tobacco South Africa, or MTSA, according to the New Age report. Trouble began when Ayabatwa rejected efforts by other cigarette dealers to buy his East London factory and any other tobacco business in South Africa in exchange for a business elsewhere for 140 million rand. Ayabatwa was warned his rejection of the offer would be the end of his business. 3 SARS rogue units agents visited the MTSA office, saying they were investigating the company's exports between 2003 and 2008. The document said MTSA had showed that SARS officials had showed all export documentation, which had all been approved by customs on the basis of bills of lading, railway waybills, and exit stamps at the South African border. SARS then raised a VAT assessment of 228 million rand against MTSA, saying exports for the 5 years had now not left the country and the company was liable for VAT. In June of 2009, after negotiations, a settlement was reached and the case was closed. In terms of the settlement, Ayabatwa and SARS settled for 60 million rand. But of that amount, only 3 million rand was paid to SARS and 57 million rand was paid into a trust account of a Grahamstown-based lawyer, Naran Dulab. The money was paid into the account NN Dulab and Co-Trust account. Well, now joining me in studio to discuss this further is the New Age reporter, Mr. Samuel Umgadze, who uncovered this story. Good afternoon to you, sir, and thank you for joining us here on ANN7. Just give us some background information. You are the reporter that's uncovered this story. Take us through your investigation.
Look, I think the story dates back to 2004, basically, where there is a big war between the tobacco manufacturers in the country. You know, the big players, they don't want the small players to come on the market. So from what I've gathered or what I've been informed in the documents I have seen, some guys try to buy out Ayabatwa's business, which is where this problem emanated from. When he rejected the offer to sell his business, that's when he says his problem started with the SARS. Yes.
And what was the problems that then arose from not wanting to sell his business?
Look, he claims that a lot of paperwork was brought up to fore in terms of him not paying taxes when he's exporting his cigarettes and VAT and all sorts of things that he hadn't been paid. But according to him, he had all the documentation that covered from 2003 to 2008, which is a period that these people were concerned about. And all this paperwork is available to SARS, and at some point they came back and they gave him a tax bill of 228 million. Yeah.
And as a reporter, did you engage with SARS at any point to try and figure out what exactly was happening there?
Look, I did try to speak to Mr. Jonas Makwakwa himself. I called him, then I sent him a WhatsApp message, to which he responded. He didn't want to discuss the matter as he was on suspension. The only people that could comment on the case were the SARS. And I did speak to Mr. Sandile Mamela telephonically, and I sent him an email. He also he called me and sent me a couple of texts on this matter. Firstly, he said that there is no way that a third party can collect money on behalf of SARS. All monies belonging to SARS must be paid in an official account, not in a different account. Then he says an investigation team has been set up to look at the cases that involve Mr. Makwakwa and as such, they cannot comment further until this investigation has been completed.
And with regards to the money, the 3 million rand, if I'm not mistaken, was paid to SARS.
Yes.
What then happened to the other 57 million rand? Do you have any details with regards to that?
Yes, I've a number of proof of payments that are available that I've seen, and some of them I've got them. 3 million was paid into SARS, but if you look at the non-disclosure agreement, it talks about paying 60 million in total.
Yes.
But then he was instructed to pay 3 million into SARS, and 57 was paid into account held by Mr. Naran Dulab, which is in Grahamstown. It was paid in 2 tranches, one for 27 and the other was for 30 million. These monies were paid into that account. And funny enough, we had managed to trace that account. We find that account now is dormant. It doesn't exist anymore.
Wow.
And I did try to communicate with Mr. Naran. He was surprised at how I got the details of this case, and I sent him an email with questions, which he promised to respond, and ever since has never picked up calls or answered to the email.
And this Mr. Naran, the Grahamstown-based lawyer, how does he fit into this whole bigger picture?
Look, from this whole story, I don't see how he features, because nobody is willing to explain what role did Mr. Naran play,
yes,
or what role was he supposed to play in this case, except that his account was used to transfer money from Ayabatwa into that account. How the money moved from Mr. Naran's to wherever, nobody knows how that money moved from there.
And there are no leads with regards to where that money is now?
Look, there are no leads. This is a case that is 2009, so still trying to see the documentation that we have, and our source is also trying to help us with the number of information to look at.
And Samuel, where would you say this leaves Mr. Makwakwa in all of this? I mean, there's been controversy around him before. Where does this leave him?
Look, I don't know whether I'm the right person to comment about his position at SARS, but I just feel that probably he might also maybe have been used as a scapegoat. He must probably knows what happened. He's the guy who signed the non-disclosure on behalf of SARS. Surely he should be in a position to say, this is what happened, why did we do this? He's the right person to answer all those questions. But as of his position with SARS, I don't think I'm the perfect guy to say what will happen to him.
With regards to any legal action, do you know of any legal action that has been taken so far as yet?
Look, at this stage, there's no legal action that I'm aware of, but I don't know what will be the follow-up after today. But from where we stand, SARS, I think, according to Mr. Mamela, they're still waiting for the investigations on Mr. Makwakwa's cases. Then from there, they'll make a decision. So of any legal case, I'm not aware of any at this point.
Just lastly, Samuel, just before you leave, tell us a little bit about this specific tobacco company. What further details do you have in that regard?
Look, there are a number of companies, basically, let's say the tobacco industry is a very competitive market. There are big players that try to squeeze out the small players and all those kind of things. So it's basically the one with the strongest muscle will survive. So the young players, as much as they try to survive in the industry, from the way I've seen the documentation, it seems as there's a way of pushing them out of the system through all sorts of allegations, which allegedly involved SARS officials, intelligence officers, and all sorts kind of agencies that try and help kick out the small players on the market.
Well, thank you very much, Samuel, for your time this afternoon and trying to clarify some of those details in this case. The New Age reporter, Samuel Bugadze, who actually uncovered this story, now suspended senior SARS executive Jonas Makwakwa, has now been named in that 60 million rand tobacco fraud case. We've got our eye on this story, and if there are any further developments here, we will keep our viewers up to date.